So, if you were going to pair two of the most controversial products of 2024 and smash them together, what would you get? Well, we aren't going to talk about that today. No, today we're going to talk about one design concept that came before the madness, and I'm not going to even mention or show this Tesla exploding. That would be in bad taste. Now, today we are going to be breaking down one of the most inspirational pieces of design I've seen in a very long time, and it is a Tesla Cybertruck concept by Brett Morris. Now, this was created in early 2024, and it was way before the Apple Vision Pro released, but I still think no one's been able to illustrate the value of XR like Brett Morris in this concept. So in this video, I'm going to break down his entire piece, tear apart what really works, why it's the future, and why you should be paying more attention to design like this. Now, if you want to watch the entire video without me interrupting it, it's either linked down below or you can skip to the end. And if you want to learn how to design stuff like this, check out the Discord link down below or subscribe. Cool. So let's go. Okay, let's kick it. Okay, now while this is just a presentation, just take into consideration that this was made before the Apple Vision Pro was released. So let's listen to that transition because this really cements Brett's experience with branding and audio design. Let's look at this grid. Look at that. Gorgeous. It's all about the little details. Let's hear that one more time. Awesome. So the first thing, if you notice here, if we just pause it, this entire room is very small. So this is why commanding space and commanding immersion is super important. And we'll talk a little bit about the concept of commanding space and perspective here in a bit. But just take into consideration how you can shove such a large object into space and why taking over someone's living room in immersion is important. So let's continue. Listen to audio. That transition audio in, gorgeous. He's now loading up everything with this stuff, commanding space. And there we go. He establishes the main signifier up front, even though this is very subtle. So let's just look at this and analyze it a little bit. Let's pay attention to this area up here, shall we? Okay, let's try it again. Now we're going to see this signifier throughout the entire experience, and it's super important to recognize, but just take into consideration that we are using around 240 degrees of space within a 90-degree field of view to try to pull people's attention and command their attention versus dictated on a television screen or on a screen in general. So take that into consideration and really pay attention to the audio cues here. So as you see here, he's using what looks like 3D cars, but I believe they're just 2D renderings of maybe a PNG sequence, because each one of these cars probably, if you loaded it here, would be, a million polys, and it would just be impossible to manage. Another thing to consideration is that he's running into some alignment issues here with the Model X and all of these titles. You're going to see this massive amount of negative space, which I think I can understand why, and we'll see why in a second. And the reason why I believe he's running into that negative space is because the Cybertruck branding is completely different, and it's also commanding a little bit more. Now, what I would probably do is try to make this more dynamic and try to center everything, because it doesn't really matter if this size really fits with these sizes, because you're only seeing them at once. But he is playing with audio design and branding here in such an incredible way, while using optimization tricks to make this look a lot more immersive. Now, also take into consideration, his line work is really cool because it draws the eye over. But also, if you think about it, when we're looking at the screen, we are essentially, our eye length is right here. So this is matching up perfectly, and our head is here. Now, this is going to come back later when we shows off the Cybertruck, the specs on screen, but it's something that we should take into consideration as well. Okay, now this right here is an absolute work of genius, and it is purely sound design. Yes, the lights are really cool and all that stuff. And if you see right now, it is forming a T, kind of like an upside down T for Tesla. I'm not sure if that's what he, basically wanted, but it really, really worked out in his favor. And what you're going to see here is when he rotates, this little window is going to open up and start lighting up the truck itself. It's absolutely brilliant. I would imagine he had to do a lot of light baking, but it worked out really well, especially the way that this light is reflecting off of the glass. So let's just see that again so we can see the drama of the audio, and then we'll look at the profile of the car. So this took a really long time to rotate, but the drama was well worth it. The show floor is absolutely amazing. It gives us a lot of time to load up things behind the scenes, and it just shows the inherent value and, I guess, skill set that Brett is bringing to the table. Absolutely insane. When I look at stuff like this, I think of a stage like a theater, and I think that's where we're going with a lot of design. The user is right here, and you're presenting them a story that is bigger than their space, and it's absolutely incredible. He did such a great job. I'm going to keep talking about how awesome Brett is, but here we go. So this spot over here is an interesting way to convey information. I'm not sure if I like it for a couple of different reasons. First, his audio stuff is absolutely amazing, and we can listen to that here in a second. But for the most part, this typography, I would imagine if it's larger, it would scale to be more legible. But over here, as you see right now, there's a lot of information, and it's on a straight vertical plane. Now, if I would to change this, I would basically try to figure out how to move this information here, because my neck would be tilted towards this. I would maybe try to move this down here or something like that. And I would try to, move it closer, have these things scale, and just really call, the value of what people are going to be purchasing. This would be also another amazing space to start playing with interior design and stuff like that. But he didn't do that in this video. But again, his lighting is absolutely insane. His presentation's awesome, except this gets lost quite a bit, and it ergonomically can be problematic. But let's just listen to what he does so well, which is audio design. Again, look at this. Boom. Awesome. And he's using this as a veil, as a transition inside of this car. Now, real quick, let's talk a little bit about why commanding space is so difficult. So basically, in traditional design, we have the ability to dictate what people see. They can't look outside of here. They're basically looking at their television. And so this is the perspective of the creator, and we're dictating it. Right now, especially in XR, we have the entire truck or the entire human field of view to basically allow people play, which means we're going to have to figure out how to direct people back to this console. And I think this is like one thing I talked about with Brett about like, how do we do this? And I don't have many answers, but let's see how he tries to bring people back to the center console, shall we? So that is super interesting. So this is not how the UI looks like right now inside of the Tesla, but it is very, very close. But if you see here, he's done a lot of work. He's taken this sci-fi grid that is used a lot in Teslas and brought it up to 11. He has changed the UI considerably and really thought through how all this stuff is going to work. And the transition, what we're going to see pretty soon, of this Cybertruck is really, really slick. Okay, let's just see what he did here. This is very, very subtle, but very, very clever. Wow, absolutely insane. Let's see it again. So he basically created a line here, and he's basically bent the rest of the geometry back to a straight line. Now, these look like quads, but these are probably tris, and he has basically reworked the entire experience around it to try to show where people, this is absolutely brilliant. He's done such a great job. Again, the majority of the things here he's doing here and the effort of this UI is lost to this. And that's something that I think we should really take into consideration as designers, because in the future, we're not going to be focusing on UI. We're going to be focusing on experiences. And this UI, well, it needs to be really good, is going to be about 8 to 10% of the experience we're going to be crafting for our users. So it's something to take into consideration. So one thing I want to also consider while we're looking at this is that a lot of this 3D stuff that we're seeing around us, a lot of this world is incredibly high fidelity. The volumetric clouds, the water, all this stuff is absolutely beautiful. And he's doing all of this in Unreal 4. This is before Unreal 5, I believe. That said, all of this being rendered on a standalone headset is probably just not going to happen anytime soon. A guy can dream, right? Another thing to consider is that a lot of people are going to get sick if you put them on Rails. So keep that in mind. So look how he tries to get people's attention real quick, shall we? Again, he is trying to pull someone's attention down here. Now, if you didn't get their attention, you wouldn't be able to get them on the next step. So I was talking to Brett at South by Southwest about how do we want to do this? How do we basically aid the user's perspective instead of dictate it? Because theoretically, you would just basically have on this road forever, and the trigger to have the Aurora Borealis wouldn't be triggered until the user basically does it themselves. So there's a lot of different ways we can do that. And when he does this, the audio mutes. There's so many things working together here. Now, again, he's going to try to pull the user's attention. So entering beast mode is automatic. I'm not sure if you would want to automatically do that. You probably would, depending on your creative decision. But he's just automatically going for the transition once he hit a specific distance. And this distance can be triggered by the Aurora Borealis as soon as that's on for 15 seconds. Then do it. There's just so many different ways to play with triggering and stuff like that. As you see on the console, he established this paradigm, and this is an amazing transition to get for us from one location to another. One thing I also want to take into consideration here is that he is actually taking in the console down there and reflecting it up here. This little stuff is so nerdy. I would imagine you would have to bake this in because otherwise it would just be too expensive to render. But like this right here is absolutely ridiculously nerdy, but it's the little things that matter. So I just wanted to call that out. It's so awesome. It's so freaking awesome. So much audio design. And bringing in Tesla Roadster. And as you see right now, which here is super interesting, let's pause it and let's go back. He's using a tertiary character or object. Let's see. Look at this. Boop. He is now using this tertiary character to point towards a reticle or a signifier that will push people to the next destination. So let's see where this goes, shall we? Where's that reticle? There it is. Absolutely gorgeous. And what we need to pay attention to is right here, he's going to have the signifier. Now, is this going to have to be user triggered? I think in his design, it obviously would. So you'd be floating in space forever until you hit this, but so cool. You'd probably need some kind of signifier here to like really push people. But what I found was really interesting is that, let's just get back here. He is pointing, boom. And the question is like, if you never went there, is this guy going to keep pointing to it? Or would he just kind of do, like there's so much stuff you can play with. As you see right there, he basically pointed to click it. And so we did. And now we are now triggering this. It's all about what triggers you from one experience to the other. So this is great. Again, he's just cementing the rest of the experience with this Mars terrain, and he's done such an amazing job with this as well. We're getting towards the end of this, but if we pay attention to this console down here, come on, there it is. Are you ready to order? So this is basically, we want to add it to your shopping cart, okay? Now, again, the reason why this whole thing is so cool is because he's really taking into consideration the advantages of XR, and I haven't seen anyone else do that yet. And why? Because it's hard. And it's also kind of hard to like convince someone to create a shopping experience. Imagine doing this for every car. You couldn't do it, or you could. It would just take forever. I think with AI, it's definitely going to help. But like, seriously, like this whole experience, when I first saw this, blew my mind. It's taken me a little bit. So yeah, it does look fun. Awesome. So definitely, his site is down, but you should check out his Twitter linked down below. Okay, guys. Well, I hope you guys found this helpful. This whole experience to me was absolutely amazing, and it really opened up my eyes about what we can build in XR. So Brett Morris is a absolute genius. I need to figure out what he's doing nowadays, but check out his Twitter if you want to share this video. Linked down below. If you like this kind of content, let me know. Link down below. If you want to learn how to design this kind of stuff, check out the Discord. Also linked down below. And until next time, everyone, here's Brett's full video. Okay, peace.